Congratulations! You've received your financial aid award letter, and you've been awarded the Oregon Promise Grant. Now you're probably wondering, how did they figure out this amount? Will this number change? The Oregon Promise Award amount can vary from $1,000 to $3,540, but even this maximum may change from year to year, depending on community college costs. The maximum award amount of $3,540 is for the 2017-2018 academic year. There are 4 factors that determine your Oregon Promise grant amount. First, average tuition cost. Second, need-based grants. Third, number of credits. 4, copay. Let's explore each of these factors in more detail. First, average tuition cost. Community college tuition costs varies from school to school. The Oregon Promise covers up to the average cost of tuition at all community colleges. For 2017 to 2018, the average cost is $3,540, which is the maximum award amount. Your Oregon Promise grant amount will be impacted by the cost of tuition at the college you attend. Let's look at an example with 3 different community colleges. College A costs more than the average tuition cost among all community colleges. Oregon Promise does not cover the additional cost above the average. If you attend this college, you will be responsible for paying the additional tuition cost. College B costs the same as the average, so Oregon Promise will cover that tuition cost. College C costs less than the average tuition. Oregon Promise will cover up to the actual tuition cost at this college. Now, let's look at factor 2, need-based grants. When you fill out your FAFSA or ORSA, you may qualify for need-based grants. For Oregon Promise, we look at how much money you are receiving from the federal Pell Grant and/or the Oregon Opportunity Grant. Oregon Promise covers remaining tuition up to 12 credits after these 2 grants are applied. Let's see how this factor impacts 3 students in different financial situations. Student A has a lower expected family contribution, or EFC, which means they have a high financial need. This student is receiving the federal Pell Grant and the Oregon Opportunity Grant. Since the student's tuition is already covered by these need-based grants, they will receive a minimum Oregon Promise grant of $1,000 to help cover other expenses. Student B has a slightly higher EFC, which means they have some financial need, but not as much as student A. This student is receiving some federal Pell Grant funds, but is not eligible for the Oregon Opportunity Grant. This student's Oregon Promise Grant amount will be larger than student A to help cover the remaining tuition cost. Student C has a higher expected family contribution than the first 2 students, which means lower financial need. This student is not eligible for the federal Pell Grant or the Oregon Opportunity Grant, so Oregon Promise fills in the gap. The student will receive a maximum Oregon Promise grant amount up to the average cost of tuition. Moving on, factor 3 is the number of credits you take. Your Oregon Promise award amount will be adjusted depending on the number of credits you attempt each term. Oregon Promise covers up to 12 credits per term. The student is financially responsible for any credits over 12. If a student takes 6 to 11 credits, they will receive a lower amount from the Oregon Promise. You'll receive 3/4 of the award if you take 9 to 11 credits, or half of the award if you take 6 to 8 credits. The final factor that affects your award amount is the copay. A $50 copay is automatically deducted from the Oregon Promise Award each term. Why? This is the student's contribution to help pay for their education. Put all four factors together, and you can see that each student has a unique award amount. Remember, the minimum amount you can qualify for is $1,000, and the maximum is the average community college tuition cost. Let's calculate a couple of examples so you can see how things work in real life. Example, Student A. Student A is attending a community college with tuition that is lower than the average tuition cost. The tuition at their college is $3,400 for the year. Since this college costs less than the average, we start our calculation with the actual cost of tuition at their college, $3,400. Then we subtract the amount of federal Pell Grant and Oregon Opportunity Grant that the student is eligible for this year. This student is not eligible for either need-based grant. Minus 0, federal Pell Grant, minus 0, Oregon Opportunity Grant, which leaves $3,400. This is the amount of remaining tuition that Oregon Promise covers for this student for the year. There are 3 terms, fall, winter, spring, that Oregon Promise pays for in a year. So we divide the annual award amount by 3 terms. $3,400 divided by 3 equals $1,133. $1,133 is their award each term. Now let's say the student is taking 10 credits per term. This counts as 3/4 time enrollment, so we multiply the term award amount by 75%. The remaining amount is $850. Finally, there is a $50 copay taken out of the award each term. $850 minus 50 equals $800. Based on all these factors, this student will receive $800 per term for Oregon Promise. Example, Student B. Student B is attending a college where the tuition is $3,700 for the year, for 12 credits. Since this cost is more expensive than the average tuition, we start our calculation with the average cost of tuition, $3,540. Then we subtract the amount of federal Pell Grant and Oregon Opportunity Grant that the student is eligible for this year, if any. $3,540 minus $2,000 federal Pell Grant minus $2,250 Oregon Opportunity Grant is negative $710. Since this student's tuition is covered entirely by the federal Pell Grant and Oregon Opportunity Grant, the student automatically receives a minimum Oregon Promise Award for the year, $1,000. There are 3 terms, fall, winter, spring, that Oregon Promise pays for in a year. So we divide the annual award by 3 to figure out the award amount per term. $1,000 divided by 3 is $333. The remaining amount is $333. This student takes 14 credits per term. This is full-time enrollment, at or above 12 credits, so we keep the full-time award amount, $333. Finally, we subtract the $50 copay each term. Minus $50 is $283. This student will receive $283 per term for Oregon Promise. Keep in mind that your award amount may change from term to term or from one year to the next based on these 4 factors. If you have questions about your award amount, check your OSAC student portal account. You can also contact OSAC or your college financial aid office.